The Comfort Zone with Ray Comfort. Thought-provoking. Informative. Engaging. Are you ready to be inspired and equipped? And now, The Comfort Zone with Ray Comfort.
Welcome to the Comfort Zone with Ray Comfort, where there is one jubilant and empowered Arab today, friends.
How can an Arab be jubilant?
I never thought of that.
I did.
Becoming all things to all Jews.
Yes. But why am I empowered today? Because the force has been balanced, at least, because I think for the first time in the history of the Comfort Zone, we have a fellow Arab in the studio audience. Our friend Nazareth is here with us today. Welcome, Nazareth. The power. Habibi, that's all I have to say.
He was a force? Is it like Star Wars?
He's balanced the force, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the force.
Oh, you should have heard the lovely Arab song I sang to him before we came on.
Make you hear cool.
I'm joy-filled today, friends. And we also have a very special guest with us. Our old friend Steve Sanchez is here with us today. He'll be joining us in just a little bit to fill us in on what's been happening with him in Texas. But before we do that, we have I just feel so good today, right?
It's a hot day.
We need to bring more Arabs in here.
3 days of hot weather, 99
that's been
degrees,
hot.
and fires all throughout the states.
Is it hot in Texas, Steve, right now?
It's getting hot.
Right.
Getting hot.
Yeah.
There's only 3 types.
So, friends, we want to encourage and excite you with this wonderful video. Watch.
Hey,
Wow.
why didn't you leave the last bit on? How come that was taken off?
Was that really?
They showed the kid's leg. It was just gashed to pieces. You
that's
never
right.
saw that?
No, I
That's
did
what
see
brings
that.
some sobriety to it. That was a rotten dog.
I'm seriously still having a hard time believing a cat actually did something
Well, that's so
productive.
against nature. Seriously.
Productive.
So, Mark, do you like cats?
I love cats, Ray. Especially now, I really like cats.
You do?
Yep.
So you've changed your mind? That one cat did it. That is so against nature. Seriously, I don't hate cats.
I love cats. It's just that I can't eat a whole one.
You're a brave man. We just lost 50% of our
I shared
audience.
that from the pulpit this Sunday.
You did
It almost
not?
killed
And
me.
they let you finish?
But I blamed it on you.
But seriously, cats are so, I don't hate them. They're nice on your lap, but they're very selfish. The only time
They're
they'll
wicked
lean up against
things.
you, well, they wouldn't get that carried away, but they'll be nice to you when you're going to feed them. You ever heard the noise they make at night?
Oh, yes.
Can you do it? It is horrible.
like that.
They
Creatures
look
of
like
the
that,
dark.
too.
What's that?
They look like that, too. That noise that he's just making. You see the look?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But,
so
that
was against nature. It was a wonderful thing that cat did. It was a good Samaritan.
Yeah. No, but seriously, I mean, what was it? Was it just it loved its master and just defended
It
it?
thought that was another cat.
That must have been what
It's
it
a
was.
cat in a dog suit.
Oh, boy,
mouse.
we're going to get letters from all the cat
Oh,
lovers
Mark
now.
said it was a big mouse.
Is that Mickey? Mickey the rat?
Oh, boy.
Jumped on him.
All right,
anyway.
friends, we're having too much fun.
No, it's
My
still
Arab
won't-
friend is inspiring me here. All right,
They still won't get to heaven.
I know. Let's jump into this and get to some serious
All the
stuff.
good works in the world.
Yeah, you
won't
don't
do
ever
it,
see
but yeah.
books. Cats go to heaven, right? It's usually
No.
the dogs. All right, here is an email from Cheryl. My husband and I have been discussing the commandment regarding the Sabbath, the fourth commandment. It seems this is the only commandment that is treated by the modern church as non-essential. No one will argue with the others being applicable to godly living, both literally, don't kill, spiritually, don't hate, etc. But when it comes to the fourth commandment, well, we don't need to apply that one to our lives. Can you give us any more information on this? Well, it's high time we address this question because, as Alan was sharing earlier, this is one of the most common questions that we get.
I get it a lot because of the teaching of the use of the law and evangelism. The law is a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ. What I usually do when I meet a Sabbath keeper who says, why aren't you going to church on Saturday, is show me one command anywhere in the New Testament for Christians to keep the Jewish Sabbath. It's not there.
Right.
It's always negative. They say, oh, Paul kept the Sabbath. It was evangelistically he kept the Sabbath. He'd go into the synagogue to take the gospel there. Jesus kept the Sabbath because he had to keep the law to be a sacrifice for us. But all references in the New Testament are negative references to the Sabbath. Let no one tell you which day to keep.
Right.
Acts 15. here was God's opportunity. If our salvation is dependent on keeping the Jewish Sabbath, here was God's opportunity to tell literally millions down through history, make sure you keep the Sabbath holy. When they asked about the question in Acts 15, didn't address it. They just said, refrain from blood, things strangled, and from fornication.
Yeah.
So if God had said, oh, and remember to keep the Sabbath holy, everyone would keep it, but no.
Right. Yeah, and you know, Mark, one of the biggest points of argument that we hear, especially like, for example, from Seventh-day Adventists, is look, the seventh day was set apart by God and made holy. The Sabbath is on Saturday. It must be on Saturday. So even before we get into the minutia of the Sabbath day, just by way of principle, you like that, minutia?
Oh, that's very powerful.
Coming out with all kinds of words, anti-disestablishmentarianism, electroencephalography. Anyway, we'll get into those later. But Mark, help us to understand why it is that Christians don't have Saturday as a day set apart to worship God.
Well, Ray hit it. We're not commanded to do so. And if we look at the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 2, starting verse 46, it says, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. They ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. You look at all the gatherings where they came together corporately, it really was on the first day. It wasn't on that seventh day. So when we take that into consideration, also with the thought of, hey, what is Sabbath? Is man made for the Sabbath, or Sabbath made for the man? The Sabbath was made for the man. It's a day of rest. We look at a lot of people talk about the Sabbath, and the Sabbath is a time of worship. Well, no, as Christians, we worship every day. Mm-hmm. The Sabbath is not a day of worship, it's a day of rest.
Right.
So what happens when an individual comes along and says, I want to keep the Sabbath? Well, if they can keep that in faith, then feel free to do so. Christ kept the Sabbath perfectly for me so that I don't need to. Let me read a quote here from Fred Zaspel. He said this, like all the ancient Mosaic institutions, the Sabbath has reached its fulfillment in Christ. And it is by trusting in Him that we preserve its significance today. So how do we preserve the Sabbath? It's by looking to Christ, the author and finisher of our faith, but also the completion, the fulfillment of the law. And that's what Christ did 2,000 years ago on that Roman gibbet. So when we look at the Sabbath, a day of rest, if somebody wants to esteem one day higher than another day, then that's fine. If you wanted to keep the Sabbath and your Sabbath is on Wednesday, you know, I'm not to judge you according to that. If you want to do that. But realize this, you're not gaining brownie points with God to do so. You know, Ray and I, we were kind of talking about this what we're going to be talking about, was it probably 20 minutes ago inside my office. I said, Ray, do you have stuff prepared here for this topic? He says, no, today's my Sabbath. I can't look over my notes. Which raises a very valid point. What does it mean to keep the Sabbath? What does it mean to have a day of rest? You're going to come across people that won't flip a switch to turn on a light because it's working. Or you have elevators, you go to Jerusalem today and they stop on every floor because they're afraid to push a button. You can't pick up your mat. And this is, if you notice and you recognize, this is what was the major division between Jesus and the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Right.
Because he was continually challenging what it meant to keep the Sabbath. Because man was not designed to keep the Sabbath. The Sabbath is for man, a time of rest where we can reflect back on what happened in the past week and look forward to what's going to happen in the next upcoming week. So I think if we're going to begin to define what does it mean to keep the Sabbath, you might have a million different definitions on what that means, but ultimately we can come to the place where we can conclude that Jesus is our Sabbath. He is our rest. There is a rest that remains for the children of God, for the people of God. And what is that in reference to? I believe it's in reference to Christ. He is our rest. He is our prize. He is our glory and our crown.
You know, Sunday is our day of rest, the day we worship. And I look back when we're having kids, it's the most stressful day of the year. Get up, get the kids, get them dressed, feed the dog, we'll get to church fast, well, get them parked in the car, and it's just, you end up...
That's so true.
You need to rest after the day of rest.
It's so true. And you know, there are very few doctrines that have caused as much contention, I think, in the body of Christ as this, between, you know, those that profess Christ. But let me just say, as you cited earlier, Ray, you know, that is the one commandment that we don't see reiterated in the New Testament. And that's significant to know because all the other 10 commandments are reiterated. And as Romans 14:15 says, one person esteems one day above another, another esteems all days alike. Let everyone be fully convinced in his own mind. And then, of course, Colossians 2:16 says, so let no one judge you in food or in drink or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths, which are a shadow of things to come, but the substance is Christ. So it's so important to remember that. And yet, we can all agree that in principle, Ray, it is good for Christians to have a day that they set apart
Absolutely.
in which they worship the Lord in a corporate sense, and then also where they rest. Like Mark cited as well, that the Sabbath was not made for man, or man was not made for the Sabbath, but Sabbath for man. The purpose is to rest, to be rejuvenated, to focus on the Lord, and to be strengthened.
You know, if Seventh-day Adventists and other Sabbath keepers were as zealous as they are about the Sabbath as for the lost, we would see revival.
Yeah.
Every time I meet them, there's arguing about the Sabbath and not reaching out to the lost. People are going to hell. D.L. Moody said, the law can only chase them out to Calvary, no further.
Yeah.
So there's no condemnation. You're free any day of the week to worship the Lord and rest.
Amen. Well, we hope that covers it, friends. And with that, we will go to a special video by our brother, David Platt.
So I've got this friend, I'll call him John. John's first exposure to the whole concept of hell was when he was watching a Tom and Jerry cartoon when he was younger. And what was intended to be this humorous cartoon all of a sudden turned into this hellacious nightmare when Tom did something bad to Jerry and was thrown into hell as a result. And later, John was at his church and he was talking with an older man about what he'd seen. And the older man looked at John and said, John, you don't want to go to hell, do you? John said, no. And so the man looked back at him and said, okay, pray this prayer after me. Dear Jesus. John kind of paused. There's some awkward silence, and then he realized he was supposed to say exactly what the man had said. So he said, Dear Jesus. Then the man continued, I know that I'm a sinner, and I believe that Jesus died for my sins, and I ask you to come into my heart and save me. And then when they were finished, the man looked at John and said, Son, now you can know that you are saved from your sins, and you don't ever have to worry about hell again. Is that true? Is this really what it means to become a disciple of Jesus? Is this really what it means to follow him? You look back at the first disciples in the Bible, and when Jesus came up to them and said, follow me, that was not an invitation to pray a prayer. That was a summons for these men to lose their lives. But somewhere along the way, 2,000 years later, amid varying cultural tides and popular church trends, we have virtually missed that call. With good intentions, with sincere desires to reach as many people as possible for Jesus, we've taken challenging words from Christ and turned them into trite phrases in the church. And in the process, we've drained the lifeblood out of Christianity and replaced it with a watered-down version of the gospel that is so palatable, it's not even real anymore. And the consequences are catastrophic. Scores of men, women, and children culturally identify themselves as Christians today who biblically are not followers of Christ. Is that possible? Absolutely it is. In fact, according to Jesus, it's probable. He said at the end of his most famous sermon, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles? And I will tell them, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Those are some of the most frightening words in all of the Bible. As a pastor, I stay awake some nights, haunted by the thought that many people who are sitting in church on Sunday will be shocked to stand before Jesus one day and hear him say to them, I never knew you. Away from me. We desperately need to take a look at our lives and our churches and ask the question, are we really biblically, personally following Jesus? Eternity is dependent on how we answer that question.
Very powerful, isn't it?
Wow.
There's so much damage has been done by that sinner's prayer.
Boy, what a blessing to have men of God like that speak truth with such clarity and boldness.
Yes.
David Platt is, I think, one of the frontline men today who God is using.
He is a platitude.
And, Oh, boy. At least I'm going to call him a platypus. That's good. All right, friends. Well, as I said, we're extremely excited today because we have one of our very special friends with us. One of the men who makes Ray Comfort feel lukewarm, Steve Sanchez. Welcome, Steve.
Hi. Very happy to be here.
Steve is from Tylus, Texas.
Tylus?
No tie.
We don't wear a lot of ties.
Today, Ray.
Don't wear a lot of ties in Texas, and believe it or not, a lot of people wear cowboy hats or boots. So I'm in probably the most LA part of Texas, right outside of Austin in Dripping Springs.
So you do the yeehaw dudes now, right?
Yeah.
I say y'all. I say y'all because it's easier.
Yeah.
I eliminate a
Actually,
syllable.
I agree with that. I always thought that we waste so much breath with you all of you, just y'all.
Yes.
So
Y'all is a
Texas,
lot easier.
They don't wear a tie around the neck, they wear a holster.
That's right.
Well, Steve, what a joy to have you, man. We want to get caught up. We got a barrage of questions, so Ray, kick it.
So, Steve, you've moved. How long ago did you move to Texas? What, a year ago?
September 29th. just
September
about
29th. You can
7.5 months ago.
You're
7.5 months
in the
ago.
other studio. You're not right next to us. Okay, Steve?
And it's been, well, it's a lot of work to plant a church. It was certainly a lot easier working in a large church in Hermosa Beach, California, but I believe God called me there, and within 2.5 months of the call, we had sold our home, and we moved to Texas. And now we are averaging about 20.2 people per service.
So what's God teaching you besides suffering?
Oh my! You know what you hear a lot
Nothing.
about. It's not about me. It's all about God. I really have a greater understanding of what that means now. No matter what I preach, there's still people who will get the message. Some are a little slow on that. No matter how many people I invite, and I've invited close to 1,500 people. So our results have been about a little less than 1% return, but it's about Christ and He will build the church. I just need to be faithful.
Amen.
I need to be faithful to what He's called me to do.
So whereabouts are you in Texas so that people could come and visit you?
We are 20 miles west in Dripping Springs in next to Dollar General. That's the big landmark in our town. Believe it or not, it has 2,000 population, but there's 40,000 in the subdivisions around. And 9 out of 10 people are not in church there, and the rest of the people are in denominations. And we know that not everybody who goes to church knows the Lord. So there's it's a Christian culture as opposed to California, where it's more of an atheistic culture. The people are friendly. It's the friendly state. So it makes things actually a little bit easier talking about the Lord, but we have to go beyond the denominationalism and beyond the tradition to bring them to the point of where they're at with the Lord. Do they know Him?
Right.
So that's the challenge.
Did you say you buy a big department store?
We are 12 minutes from a mall, but we're right in the country. So my wife feeds the deer in the morning, and in the evening we have roadrunners and foxes and all manner of wildlife, and that's quite a bit
So
different.
could you
than,
go to the mall and just call your church main entrance?
I suppose we could.
Oh boy, Ray's such a professional church planner. He's got all kinds of advice. Hey Steve, look, everyone who knows you knows your passion for the lost. I mean, you know, if there was a banner over Steve's life, it would be evangelism. So have you noticed a difference there in Texas? I mean, obviously it's a part of the Bible Belt there. Do more people share their faith, or is it kind of like everywhere else, 2%?
It's kind of like everywhere else. Now, obviously, the pastors have a heart for evangelism, but I think it's the same everywhere, at least in the U.S., that to get the congregants, to get the people fired up for the sake of the gospel, for them to understand the urgency of people realizing what their eternity is. I haven't met anybody else yet who's handing out tracts or sharing their faith yet.
Wow.
I've only been there 7.5 months, so I'm still waiting.
Wow. So you're becoming all things to all men. You've got some boots, a holster, and a big 10-gallon hat, or are you just Steve from California?
I'm Steve from Texas. Because, well, the Californians, there seems to be a big influx of Californians going to Texas, and it's not the most popular thing to say that you're from California.
Really?
So, yes.
They're moving there because of the tax breaks?
Tax breaks, people made a lot of money on their homes, they're moving there, and they're bringing their politics to Texas as well. And Texas is, really, it is God's country. It's conservative. They have great laws, small government. It's really, I feel like I'm at home there. I feel like I'm at home. For the first time, when I voted, everything I voted for passed, which was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, that'd be a miracle in California.
Oh my golly. And everyone vies for who is the most right. Okay, in terms of conservatism, this one's more right than the other. This one's more right of this guy. Where in California, they don't even put Republican on their election signs.
Right.
So it's pretty different.
Well, Steve, we've got one final question for you.
Yes.
Have you noticed whether or not you have to evangelize differently in Texas, or is it just like here? Because obviously people are more conservative. They associate more with being Christian. How do you deal with that?
Well, because there is a lot of denominationalism there, and people do belong to a denomination, and it is a Christian culture. When people say that they are, let's say they're a Baptist, I've just tweaked it a little bit by saying, well, what does that mean? And if they're able to explain that to me, I ask, well, because you're a Baptist, does that mean God will allow you into heaven? And then I let them explain that to me. And if I don't hear the right words, that it's Jesus Christ who saved me and Him alone, then I'm able to present the law and gospel to them.
Right.
So it's just a slight tweak there, but it's wonderful that people will actually listen to me talk about Jesus and not get offended, not get mad at me.
Steve, we would really like people to support you in any way. Do you have a website?
We do. It's hopechapelhillcountry.org. And that would be the place they can go to find out what we're doing there. And if they're in Dripping Springs, 20 miles west of Weird, as they say, then they're more than welcome to stop by. And they can pray for me to stay faithful. That's the main thing. I want to remain faithful.
Well, it's great that you moved from Living Waters to Dripping Springs.
Right. All right. Well, Steve, great to have you with us. What a blessing. And look, if you've been stirred even by hearing about Steve's heart for the lost, we want you to know how you can be equipped to do that. So watch this.
If the average 21st century Christian was asked, are you ashamed of Jesus? He'd probably say, what do you mean am I ashamed of Jesus? I've got a fish on my car. But listen to what Jesus said. Whoever is ashamed of me and of my words, of him will I be ashamed when I come in my glory. It's not Jesus we're ashamed of, but his words are kind of difficult. Listen to them. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. That's the exclusivity of Christ. Or his frank talk about hell. He said, if your eye offends you, pluck it out and cast it from you, for it is better to enter heaven without an eye than go to hell, where the fire is never quenched and the worm never dies. The Bible says, study to show yourself approved, a workman that needs not be ashamed. If you're ashamed and you don't know how to answer these difficult questions, it's probably because you've never studied the subject. Through the School of Biblical Evangelism, you'll learn how to explain these difficult truths.
Well, the School of Biblical Evangelism not only helped me in my witnessing, it actually caused me to start witnessing.
The School of Biblical Evangelism is a full-blown online evangelism course. You're going to learn how to share the gospel effectively.
It's loaded with theology, apologetics, and evangelism, but all of that has an overarching theme of how to share the gospel in any situation and with any person.
It combines both apologetics and evangelism. Unlike so many other apologetics courses, which are so academic but don't seem translatable into real-life situations, the School of Biblical Evangelism puts tools immediately into your hands that you can use in everyday conversations with anyone, anywhere.
The one thing about this course, this Bible course, compared to all the other courses I've ever taken, is that I can use it. This I can apply no matter what career I might go into or my daily life. I can use it, so it's practical.
This course is for anyone. If you're a college student or a housewife, or you are a pastor or seminary student, the School of Biblical Evangelism is great because you can take it at your own pace. It's 101 lessons that will leave you well equipped to answer any objection and share your faith.
I work a lot better when I set my own schedule.
I have a young family. I have 2 young children and a wife and a full-time job, so as you can appreciate, it's hard to fit in time for doing anything extra.
With this course, you can work at your own pace.
The teachings in the School of Biblical Evangelism really helps in the area of confidence.
It'll help you overcome your fears. It'll help give you the answers to the 100 most commonly asked questions and objections to the Christian faith.
Half the battle against fighting against lack of confidence is being prepared.
The School of Biblical Evangelism is equipping the church to be on the front lines, engaging with others concerning the Christian worldview. This curriculum was strategically designed so that you'll be ready to give an answer to every man that asks you a reason of the hope that is in you.
I don't think in the 3 years that I've been out witnessing, there has not been one question that someone has asked me that is not in that book.
And when you're finished, you will have an evidence Bible, a diploma, a network of people that you can link arms together with for the cause of the gospel, and tools to effectively handle any situation and share your faith.
I would really encourage other Christians to sign up for the School of Biblical Evangelism.
So if you want a comprehensive course in evangelism, that is the one to take.
The School of Biblical Evangelism. Someone in the chat room here, our friend Nia, just said, love this school. And that really is the refrain of so many people, Ray.
It is, what, 16,000 students?
Yeah.
All in Mark's office every morning for time of prayer? It's quite amazing.
Mark, you are one of the architects of the school. How effective has it been for God's glory?
Boy, a lot of people have gone through the school. It's been a real blessing for sure. I remember when Ray and I were trying to put together the lessons, we felt like we were running away from the people trying to get ahead. Ray, what was the analogy that you used?
It was like on the back of a stagecoach throwing things off at Indians or something. We're firing arrows at us and we're dropping things off to try and keep them happy. And because they were chasing us. They were saying, okay, we're up to less than 45, and we're up to 46.
Yeah.
And we're saying, quickly, where's 46?
And
done it.
I think over 15,000 students now around the world have been equipped. So friends, please.
16,000.
16,000. Oh, sorry, that's a lot more. So please make sure to check it out. And again, as always, we want to encourage you to connect with us. So check us out on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. When you go on YouTube, remember to subscribe to the channel. We're nearing 95,000 subscribers. And remember, friends, most importantly, as always, we brought you into our comfort zone to get you out of your comfort zone. So make sure to get out there every day for the glory of God and to reach the lost. God bless you. Thanks for joining us.
For questions about the Comfort Zone with Ray Comfort, or to submit questions for future shows, please email us at email@tczlive.com. That's email@tczlive.com. The Comfort Zone is an outreach of Living Waters. For more resources to inspire and equip you to fulfill the Great Commission, check out livingwaters.com or call toll-free 1-800-437-1893. Now go and preach the gospel.